Today we're going to go on with using the pen tool, and we're going to start talking about how to draw curves with the pen tool. In our previous lesson, we learned that to use the pen tool to draw straight lines, you just click and click and click around, and that creates anchor points, and you can draw straight lines just by clicking. It's almost like drawing a connect the dots, where you're drawing the dots and Adobe Illustrator is actually doing the connecting for you. This gets a little tricky when you start to deal with curves. So let's talk about how you draw curves. You may have accidentally found out when you start using the pen tool, you may have gone to click and drag, and you all of a sudden were stuck with these what I would call handlebars. The handlebars control the curves. So I'm just going to let go of this, and then when I let go of that, I see on my screen there is a blue line that kind of guides as far as where my line is going to go. So now if I just click right here, I have now drawn a curve from the top point because I click and dragged at that first anchor point, and then I just click down here. So now if I just click from this point, it's back to drawing straight lines. So clicking and dragging produces the curve. So if I click and drag and then click and drag again, you can see that I'm drawing curves through the point. The direction that you're dragging the handle is the direction that the curve is going to follow through the anchor point. The further you pull the handle, the stronger the curve is between that and the previous anchor point. So you got to be a little careful here with how you do it, and it takes a little bit of practice to get used to using the pen tool to draw curves. So I'm just going to draw this back up to the top up here. I'm just clicking and dragging, and I'm going to connect it back to this point. So I have some kind of weird squidish looking shape. One thing that's nice about using the pen tool, if you combine it with using the direct selection tool, so I'm in my toolbox now and I go back to the top and I click on my direct selection tool, we remember that we can manipulate single anchor points with the direct selection tool. So if you draw something and you want to kind of change the shape of that, let's say you drew it with the pen tool and you're not that great at the pen tool, but you want to, it's close and you need to change some things, you could use the direct selection tool to do that. You can also click here on the handlebars. So I'm going to focus in right on this anchor point down here. There's the anchor point. Here's my handlebar, and when I click on that, it'll kind of turn the way the curve goes through that anchor point. Now it gets a little tricky. Right now, all these points that I drew, the line is going straight through the anchor point. It's following through. So, but what if I want to draw a curve that comes down and then kind of comes back through the other way, almost like a crest of a wave? So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back and get my pen tool, and this is where it gets really tricky. So I'm going to click with the pen tool, and then I'm going to make a wave shape. So I'm now going to click and drag, and I'm going kind of up and to the left here. And now I have the inside of my wave. And what I want is the curve to come out of here in a completely different direction. And you see there's like a rounded tip to the top of my wave. I want it to be pointy here. So what I'm going to do is, after I let go of that drag of the anchor point out there, I'm going to click back on this anchor point, and then click and drag again, and now I have two curves coming out of this point, but the point is sharp, and this is what the line looks like, so like a wave. So I'm going to do that again with you. So it's going to be a click, and then it's going to be a click and drag up and to the left, and I'm going to let go of that and then click back on the point. And when I do that, it's getting rid of half of the handlebar, and it's the half of the handlebar that controls how it's leaving this point. So it's actually leaving this point as a straight line, but when I click and drag at the next anchor point, it makes it into a curve, and now I have the back of my shark that I just made, which is kind of cool. All right, So that's how you would do that, and it's what's good practice is drawing a shape like a cloud. So clicking and dragging, click back on the point, click and drag again, let go, click back on the point, click and drag again, click back on the point. And if you notice, I'm clicking always kind of to the center of my cloud here, and eventually I could work myself around. So it's click and drag, let go, click back on the point, click and drag, let go, click back on the anchor point, and click and drag, and now I have a lopsided cloud. Remember, you can always go back and adjust things with your selection tools to move things around to make it look a little bit better. You can use the direct selection tool to do that. So there was a little lesson in drawing curves. It takes a lot of practice with the pen tool.